Hi everyone, now today we have a new bike. This is a vintage aluminum frame bike I bought a few weeks ago. Now what's curious about this bike is mainly the drivetrain. Excuse the shadows in the back. I have a strong light behind me, so now as you can see, this rear Mac is from Mavic, and also the front one and the crankset. This bike has a almost fully complete. Well, I bought the bike just as is, but the bike came with this almost complete Mavic drivetrain, and I had to buy it because this is such a rare thing. As you guys know, I just had to buy it. Now, why is it? Why is this a rare sight to behold? Because Mavic is mainly known for wheels or rims, but at some point they started to develop drivetrains and also brakes. These are Campagnolos, which aren't any slouch, but they aren't Mavics. The Mavic brakes or calipers are way more rare than the Campagnolos. But anyway, Mavic started to develop drivetrains and brakes at some point. I can't figure out the year they started, but at some point they were, I believe, the first ones to have electronic shifting on their rear. I don't know if rear or and front, but at least on the rear derailleurs, they had they were the first to have electronic shifting. Now, what I believe happened is that on the Tour de France that year, when they started, they sponsored the teams with their newly developed electronic shifters. There was a lot of rain, and it short circuited a lot of the derailleurs. And after millions spent on the R&D of the Macs, they just gave up. And that's what I believe happened with the electronic shifters. At least that's what I heard. And then probably they just gave up on the drivetrain investment. Now, this is a I believe it's a Mavic 821 rear Mac. This one, you can look it up. They just have odd numbers describing them. This is a bike. This is a Portuguese assembled bike we'll speak about it in a minute. Assembled in Portugal, but with the Mavic drivetrain from the 90s, and they developed up to more or less this point, up to the 90s, or maybe beginning of the odds, and then they just gave up. No, this crankset is also very rare and very expensive. It is a bit scratched, mainly on this arm. It has seen some use, but it's in good condition. It isn't damaged, so it's just surface level scratches. The front Mac is also Mavic with a well, it is dirty. The bike is as I bought it. I haven't taken the time to clean it up, and probably I'll just disassemble everything, check if everything is lined up and properly lubricated, maybe change the cables and reassemble and clean and lubricate and reassemble everything. But I want to maintain this as is. Yeah, it is a very rare set of drivetrain. Now moving on to just to end up with what happened is that Mavic at the time, and because this is such an early drivetrain, at least from the point where we're seeing it. At the time, Mavic didn't have an indexable shifting system, so the ones that had it were Sachs, which were a French manufacturer. Now I have at least two bikes with Sachs systems, and they aren't these evolved per se, but the Sachs um, indexed shifters were the only ones available at the time, and they had to assemble. I spoke with the guy that assembled this bike, which is an old. He used to run bikes and competitions then, and they started to assemble bikes in Portugal. Now this bike wasn't technically assembled in Portugal. It was assembled in France by him, and because of the frame, we'll speak about it. But I spoke with him, and his reply was that they needed to use this package of sex mated to the Mavic drivetrain. Now this work fine, and they have seen a bit of use, but not a lot, not to the point where the boot should be replaced. And these, I believe, are the original boots. Now, as you can see, the bike needs some maintenance. Now, the bike is held by the stand, and it is straight ahead. Now, there's one of two options. Either, as you can see, it tends to stand straight. I don't think this is normal. Maybe this is the bearing. Can't remember the name. The bearing braces. Maybe they are on spot to be changed, or maybe this is some sort of feature. Now I should disassemble everything and check it out. But this doesn't seem too healthy for me. I don't know. I'll have to check it out. Now the brakes are Campagnolos, as are the hubs. These are Campagnolos and are spoked, laced with stainless steel spokes and mated to Mavic rims. The bike is fairly light, and mainly due to the aluminum frame. Now this is an Altec frame, and Altec was a French maker of frames. I, I I don't think they were the ones who made the tubing. I believe the tubing was from TVT, which is another French manufacturer, and then Altec assembled the tubes on the lugs. And this is a fully French frame. And then the Portuguese guy I told you about, they went to France to assemble these bikes with this Etiel name. This is his brand, and as far as I understood, they went to France and they bought the frames from Altec, and then they went with the frames to the Mavic plant in order to get the group sets and assemble them on the frame. And then they brought the frames back to everything, and I believe also with the wheels, back to Portugal, where I'm speculating, they assembled the rest of the parts. Now, for instance, this is a Cinelli Giro d'Italia handlebar and a Cinelli stem, which are Italian, so there's no reason for them to be in France. So that's maybe one part they assembled in Portugal, along with the Selle rolls saddle. This I can't remember. Yeah, it's a GPM seat post, and yeah. Now this cassette or this block isn't the original one. I have that one, and I have to change it because this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 speed cassette. It came with I believe a 7-speed cassette, and I have to change it still, and to the original one, which I have. And yeah, there's a bit of work still with this bike, but it is a competition spec bike, and a lot of guys from all over Europe used to run these bikes, these frames, and these group sets in order to make the Spanish Vuelta or the Tour de France and the Tour of Portugal and all that. These are Look pedals. They need some lubrication and some tightening, and as you can see, this is a bit dirty. Everything needs some cleaning, and this is set in this position for a long time, which is a good thing, because it doesn't have a lot of readjustment and a lot of use. Now, this is where things get a bit more complicated, because I don't believe this is the original setup to the to the to the headset, and it is, I believe it's not the original headset. I have to check it and probably change it. They should be, as far as I understand, they should be using a strong light headset, and this is plastic, and there I'm seeing a lot of nuts here. I don't believe that's original, and besides, it doesn't seem too healthy or in such a good condition. So maybe I'll just buy a strong light headset and put this stack to the right height and leave it at that. And one curious thing about this frame set is that everything is aluminium, but this is one of the first aluminium developments on frame sets. Now, what happened? Two things happened. These forks flex like hell. I tried to break it, just break it and push it forward, just out of the bike, just pushing it forwards. The wheel comes back. So this is extremely flexible and kind of hollow, as you can hear. Now, one of the things that the guy that assembled this bike, and a lot of them like this one, or just one quick thing, this still have the Mavic End Caps. So this is completely original. And tell me where you can find a Mavic End Cap. Now, the story was that at the beginning, when these frames were used at the in a competition setting by teams, they were advised to put a bit of round wood with the wheel out. They just stuck a bit of wood like a broomstick from this part of in this hole of the forks. I don't know up to where, but maybe just up to there, this height, because you still have the stem, right? And they did this in order to reinforce this area. Why? Because when these forks would break, because they did break, when the forks broke by this in this place, the rider still had some time to react to the fall. So it goes to show how fragile of not only as a material but of a condition cyclists had back then. So you had to use a bit of wood to give you a few more fractions of second, so you wouldn't die by a catastrophic failure of the forks. But it was assumed that the chances of it breaking were high, and maybe let's just start by using a bit of a broomstick there, which this one has. You can't see it, but it has a bit of wood stuck in there. Now, another thing that happened with these forks were, and the guy I bought the bike from, told me that in this insertion, the fork, one of the legs of the fork, would just come loose and unglue itself. And the guy went to the original the assembler of the bike and told him what happened, and he just glued. And this was more or less 20 years ago. He re-glued the forks or the leg on the crown of the forks, so it could hold some more 20 years of usage. Now, I don't need this bike for regular use, and I just bought it because it was a piece of history, and I wanted the bike in order to collect this part of cycling history. And it is in complete in great condition. One of the things I have to do is, for instance, change the pads to the original spec pads. The tires are original. I have wouldn't say period correct bottle, but a very similar to the ones used. I have to clean the leather on the saddle. I have to check this. This seems to be someone. I don't know if you can see. Someone welded this mech, because at some point it broke. Now what I have to do is to repaint it and leave it a bit more a bit smoother. And there's a bit of work still with the bike. I won't be, maybe I'll I don't know if I'll polish this. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it as is. But I for sure have to clean it all off. And yeah, that's it. Has the campy quick releases still. And yeah, that's that. So that's another bike for the collection. And I hope I can inspire you guys to do the same or something similar. And subscribe, like, and I see you on the next one. Bye bye.